We're going to wrap things up with a little awards talk here before we get out of here. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Total Hockey Now on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're always there. We've got clips, reels, shorts. We're always out there.
And we got 44 people watching live right now on Twitter. So thank you to all those guys out there, guys and gals, everyone.
Guys and gals, hockey fans, and or people that are just supporting the three of us because they want to be good pals. Thank you for that. Now we'll play a little who deserves it, who gets it with some of these awards here. The Hart Trophy finalists will be announced tomorrow. We got a couple of trophies in the meantime. We'll talk Conn Smythe as well. Calder Trophy, let's just get that out of the way. Connor Bedard is minus 2,500. Brock Faber plus 1,200. Luke Hughes' odds not even available, just to give you an idea of how they feel about that. And, we talked about this last week to open the show. Brock Faber, a lot of arguments can be made that make sense, but it's going to go to Bedard. There's no way it's not going to go to Bedard, and that's pretty much it. Vezina Trophy, you got Hellebuck, Bobrovsky, and Demko. We've all agreed all year it's Hellebuck's going to get it. Bobrovsky's played very well for Florida, but he, when you play, we're a very good goalie behind a very good team. Sometimes you lose a little bit there in those individual awards. And Demko, if he had played the whole year and didn't get hurt, maybe he could have been more of a challenger to Hellebuck. But it's still Hellebuck's award to lose at this point.
Yeah, Hellebuck was so good. A lot of us didn't have the Winnipeg Jets being here, right? Me being one of those people. And what they were able to accomplish was in part because of what Rick Bowness did. I think he made a difference on that team. I think he got the guys to believe that they can be a good hockey team. And Connor Hellebuck was very, very good. He was as advertised. He was a big reason that they were there. And you saw what happens when he wasn't able or up to the task through, again, no fault of his own, couldn't see the puck. The Winnipeg Jets looked like an expansion team. They could not just contain anything. So, I would be shocked if this doesn't go to Connor.
Muted.
I think also the fact that, Demko could not stay healthy has cost him that, because Vancouver we could forget because it felt like such a long time ago, but Vancouver had such a good start to the season. And then Demko got hurt late, and that kind of cost him there. But yeah, I think Connor Hellebuck gets it. Obviously, they don't put into account what happened this past series, right? Like that doesn't get put into any of the thoughts there of what happened there. But yeah, I'm going Hellebuck there, and I'm going to put down not available funds on Luke Hughes for the Calder Trophy. No, it's going to be Connor Bedard. Like there's no shot. It's nobody else.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, there's just no way it doesn't go to him. Now we talked. You mentioned Rick Bowness. Let's talk a little Jack Adams here. So it's Rick Bowness, Rick Tocchet from the Canucks, and Andrew Brunette from the Predators. Now, Andrew Brunette from the Predators absolutely deserves to be nominated for what he did for Nashville, but he's not going to win the award over these two guys. The voting happens at the end of the regular season, which is important to keep in mind here. So it really is a two-man race between Bowness and Tocchet. Tocchet was pretty much the odds-on favorite all year. I would be surprised if he didn't win it. However, if Rick Bowness had announced his, hey, I'm retiring at the end of the playoffs before voting, then maybe he would have gotten some sentimental votes. But I just think with Vancouver being, a bigger franchise and just the turnaround, some people may have thought Vancouver had a chance to make the playoffs this year. Nobody thought they were going to steal the division or win the division. So I think he's got to get it there, especially if, voting happens at the end of the regular season. Although Winnipeg did look strong down the stretch.
Well, yeah, I agree. It has to be Tocchet, right? Winnipeg still made the playoffs last season. We didn't know what was going to happen this season, but they played better than we all expected. I don't know if anyone expected this kind of a turnaround from Vancouver, though. And Vancouver played so well throughout the season. Now they're in the second round of the playoffs. Obviously, you said the voting happened already, but I think it has to be Tocchet. Although my sentimental favorite, obviously, is Andrew Brunette. But like I said, Vancouver turning what was happened last season into this, I think it's got to be Tocchet.
One thing is 100% confirmed. It will go to someone who is in Canada, so that is good. I want to lean Rick Bowness's way just because of how the Jets were in a really competitive division as well. Not to say that the Pacific wasn't very good, but I feel like the Winnipeg Jets maintained what they had, and they were really good, and they kept up, and they were, they were right there. And I feel like the Canucks, like they got off to that red hot start, and then kind of fizzled a little bit, but they were so far out. Like the cushion they had built was good enough to get them to where they needed to be. Yes, I don't think many people had Vancouver being at the top of the division. I think that's fair. But I don't think any of us had, like, some of us had Winnipeg as a lottery team, not even close to the playoffs. And to see what they were able to achieve and the metrics behind it as well. Like I said, the Jets were one of the best defensive teams on the road. They were one of the best overall defensive teams. That's, yes, they have Josh Morrissey. Yes, they have Neil Pionk, but that defense is not built with a whole bunch of studs on the back end. This was a committee of guys playing well defensively, because even Laurent Brossoit was good, and he's a backup goalie, let's be honest. So I would lean a little bit towards bonus, but again, I wouldn't be disappointed if someone said, "Hey, Rick Tockett's getting the bonus," because at the end of the day, he did finish the top of the division.
All right, third award we're going to talk about with the Canuck as a finalist here, the Norris Trophy. Got Quinn Hughes at -550, Cale Makar at +450, Roman Josi at +1900. Roman Josi is the perennial, I feel like, bridesmaid in that regard. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's got one Norris under his belt, but with the way Makar's played this year and the way Hughes played this year, much like Andrew Brunette with the Predators, he's deserves to be nominated, but that's going to be the extent of it for him. I think Quinn Hughes gets it. He was, like Tocchet, kind of just like the odds-on favorite for most of the year, as he deserved. And Cale Makar's got more in his future, and I just think Quinn Hughes really just knocked it out of the park this year. So, like we talked about, Tocchet being an important part of that Vancouver turnaround, so is Quinn Hughes, and I think he's going to get his first.
Wasn't Quinn Hughes the odds-on favorite in the offseason as well? Or was it Makar?
It was him or Makar. I'd have to double. They were the top two. I forget who it was, but those were the top two odds coming into the season. I do recall that.
Well, obviously, you got the top three defensemen, in hockey. I'll go with Quinn Hughes here and the contributions he's made to turning this Vancouver team around and helping them out to get to this playoffs. But yeah, you got Cale Makar, like you said, he's going to win some. And I don't know. I feel Roman Josi's a little far off with this one.
It's a shame that Josi's so far off, because like he scored, of the defensemen on that list, he scored the most goals. And he's, like you said, he's a distant third here. I think it's probably between Quinn Hughes and Makar. The race might be a little bit tighter, but like Quinn Hughes came out here. He scored 17 goals, and like that was a knock on Hughes. Like we knew he could rack up points, but can he score goals? If you care about the most meaningless stat in hockey, the plus minus, he was a +38, which is exceptionally good. He had 54 even strength points, right? And Cale Makar only had 47. So if that's something that you care about, even strength points to me, I feel like are a lot harder to come by for a defenseman. But again, I just feel like I wouldn't be shocked if Cale Makar came out with it again. I just feel like this is probably Quinn Hughes' year. And if Quinn Hughes wasn't in the equation, then I think Roman Josi would win it, because of what all the other things that he brings to this team, right? He plays the position well, yes. I mean, even Roman Josi, +12 is what it is, but he had 51 even strength points. He also blocks a ton of shots. Like, you don't see Quinn Hughes being that shutdown defenseman. His game is possessing the puck, what he does offensively. So your numbers defensively look good when you have the puck on your stick, because you don't have to defend. That's how I play defense. Just possess the puck. Then I don't have to worry about back checking or defending my own net or blocking shots. So I think this goes to Quinn Hughes. It's unfortunate for Roman Josi, because I feel like he put up those numbers, but he just gets lost because of how good the other two were ahead of him.
If we're talking about the best all-around defenseman of those three, I'd say Josi, and this goes back to the argument I made, about a month or so ago about would we need a defensive defenseman award, because the Norris Trophy has basically become who's the most consistent and potent offensive defenseman. We have a defensive forward award for the Selke, so we have both sides, and the Hart goes to the most valuable and all that, but I really think there needs to be a defensive defenseman award, so that way somebody like Roman Josi, who is not going to win it this year, but probably was the best all around defenseman. We'll see. Hart Trophy, speaking of which, you got Nate McKinnon at -340, Nikita Kucherov at +500, Connor McDavid +550, and Austin Matthews at +2500. Would have been curious to see what those odds would have looked like if he had hit 70, how much they would have been lower drastically, because he would have probably had a real shot at it at that point. McKinnon's going to win it. But I feel like if you're talking about who was the most valuable to their team, Kucherov absolutely threw the lightning on his back and carried them for many stretches. So in that regard, he is the MVP. But I think McKinnon deserves to get the Hart Trophy. He's earned it, and I think he's coming away with it. And it's really tough to make an argument against him at this point, for this season at least.
I will gladly make an argument against it. Nothing wrong with Nathan McKinnon getting it, as he was tremendous as he was. To me, it's Nikita Kucherov's trophy to lose. Kucherov put up 100 assists in a season. That is a remarkable number. He also had a whopping 91 even strength points, which now on the surface you're like, cool, that's great. He also, again, in the most meaningless stat you can find, he was a +8 on a team that also didn't have Andrei Vasilevsky for a long period of time. They were really, really bad on the road. That's a team aspect, but Nikita Kucherov is there. But this is the stat that stands out to me. And like you said, the Hart is the most valuable player to his team. So Nikita Kucherov had 144 points. The next closest to him was Braden Point. He had 90. Like, he averaged over a point per game, and he was 54 points behind his teammate. Like, that's not just a little number. That's 54 points, which is completely mind-boggling to me, to be how much better he was than everybody else on his team when players on his team were still elite. Like, Braden Point gets lost. Like, he had 90 points in a season. He had a remarkable season, and we just disregard him. Like, he is not there. Like, he's just, okay, cool, fine. This was a very good Tampa Bay team. Like, even Steven Stamkos had 81 points. Like, he averaged a point per game, and he was very good. But to me, what Nikita Kucherov was able to accomplish, the numbers that he set, and if he's not on that Tampa Bay team, they don't make the playoffs. Like, they don't at all. They're not even close. They struggle mightily. And it's not just a player who's able to facilitate the puck around the ice. He also put 44 pucks in the net, which is very good. I understand players score 69 nowadays, and 50 doesn't seem like an impossible task. But 44 goals, most of your points coming 5-on-5, the number of times he was involved in his team scoring. How do you take that away from him? Those are historical numbers, and you're not going to give him the most valuable player to his team. That's a tough one for me.
I'm shocked that Austin Matthews' odds are not better than what they did for coming in one goal short of 70. But I agree with one of you guys, and it's going to be Chris and Nikita Kucherov. Just look at these stats, okay? 44 goals for Kucherov, 51 for McKinnon. That's close, right? Obviously, he had more assists, 100 to 89. Power play points, 53 for Kucherov, 48 for McKinnon. McKinnon had over 100 more shots on goal, and they're that close to each other. Like, Kucherov doesn't even have Rantanen on that top line either. So, yeah, it's got to be Kucherov on this one. Like, I feel like it has to be. Their stats are just so similar, and McKinnon has more times to get shots on goal than Kucherov did, and they still have the same amount of points almost. And Kucherov is better power play points, assists, just missing a couple of goals, and it'd be a whole different story.
I can't believe we're having a Hart debate where one of the two guys we're talking about that has to get it is not Connor McDavid. That's mind-blowing in itself. I mean, not that he had a bad year, but I mean, we're talking about just if it's most valuable player, then, and yes, he's extremely important to that Oilers team. But Colorado's not where they are without McKinnon. Tampa Bay certainly not where they were without Kucherov. So
also 100 assists for Connor McDavid too, just to throw that out there.
Yeah. historical numbers for him too, and we're just like, cool, bud. Thanks for
It's like
coming.
you're a distant third, bud. You go get the bronze, okay?
Me as well for what it is for McKinnon. Like McKinnon has so much speed, right? Like he can burn you. He's a centerman. He can burn you. He played a ton and everything. Nobody looks at Nikita Kucherov and go, "Wow, that's a speedster." Like he's slower, which is, I guess, fine. His vision is just next level. Like he can find you no matter what. He doesn't have to be looking at you. He's a wizard with the puck. He elevates everybody around him. And not to say that McKinnon doesn't do that. He obviously makes everybody better. But I'm looking at Kucherov and the way that he plays, and I'm like, homie, how did you put up the numbers that you did with that type of gameplay? You know what I mean? Like this is a guy who goes to the All-Star game, doesn't even care, and yet look at this. This man is built different. I don't know what he consumed in Russia, but I want some of it.
He's definitely doing something right there. So those are the in-season awards. And we'll talk a little Conn Smythe trophy to wrap things up here on this edition of Total Hockey Now on the Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook THN network. So right now, Connor McDavid's for the odds for the Conn Smythe of plus 600, Matthew Tkachuk plus 1,300, Nate McKinnon plus 1,400, Bobrovsky plus 1,700, Igor Shesterkin at plus 1,800, and then Wyatt Johnston at plus 1,900. I could go on and on, but I just picked those are the top ones right now. If you had to pick somebody for the Conn Smythe trophy, if you were placing a bet, who's going to be the guy you're placing the money on right now?
Now I'll go with Nathan McKinnon.
Okay.
Now we can. I didn't forget you, Nathan. It's fine. I know. Now I would give it to him. It's not that I don't think Connor McDavid could get there. To me, it's a question of who gets to the finals, and I think it's Colorado. And if they do get there, Nathan McKinnon is going to be a big reason why. He also had he's had a great run. It wouldn't surprise me if some other players kind of pop up there, depending on how they play. So, like for Edmonton, Zach Hyman, if he continues to find the back of the net at this torrid pace. Same thing with Valerie Nichushkin. I think if he stays on the ice and continues to bury the puck, that could be pretty well. I think in the East, I'd like to see it go to a goalie at some point, but I can't remember the last goalie who won a Conn Smythe. I feel like I don't know. It's like my mind goes straight to
Andrei Vasilevsky, 2021.
2021. My apologies, Andrei Vasilevsky. See how good
but
he was.
Before him, it was a long time. Before him, it was Jonathan Quick.
Oh, Jonathan Quick. See, I'm even farther back. I was thinking of J.S. Jaguar, even though he lost to like the Devils that year, where the Devils won the Stanley Cup, but with the Ducks were in.
Cam Ward, 2006 as well.
Right. So I'd like to see you go to a goalie because I think if you get that far, like Sergei Bobrovsky would be a big reason why. Igor Shesterkin could be a big reason why. But no. I just don't think it. I would go with McKinnon. Certainly at plus 1,400. To me, that seems like a solid bet.
Yeah, I think it's McKinnon or McDavid on this one.
Yeah, I would agree with McDavid just in the sense that if they get there and get all the way and win, I mean, it's not, Draisaitl probably is going to have a lot to do with that too. But I mean, McDavid, I think we're just at that point. He would have to have a very nondescript Stanley Cup final to not get it if they won it all.
Yep.
It would just be tough to man. These are tough, especially the Conn Smythe. It's real tough because we see a lot of guys who Jonathan Marsh or so, like guys like that step up in the playoffs and you just go on these runs and then you easily, well, not easily, I won't say easily, but you've earned that trophy. Like imagine if the Stars get there and it's because of Wyatt Johnson. It's something that's not an impossible one. So I think for me, I would sprinkle a lot, or not a lot, a little bit on those outline guys. Again, the Valerie Nichushkins, the Zach Hymans, because sometimes they get forgotten, but those are the guys who make it work. Sometimes you're always like, oh yes, it's the elite player who did all this, and sometimes people don't want to give it to those guys because the others have produced more. But
I mean, it tends to go to like a star player. I mean, Duncan Keith got it for the Blackhawks in 2015, and yes, he was a star player for that blue line. You wouldn't consider him a star amongst the rest of those guys, but he had an unbelievable postseason that year and deserved it. But I mean, you look, and then Justin Williams was Mr. Game 7, so he's like a playoff specialist when he won it with the Kings. But you look at the names: Cale Makar, Victor Hedman, Ovechkin, Kane, Crosby, Malkin, Taves, Henrik Zetterberg, et cetera, et cetera. So it usually goes to a bigger name. So for me, as much as you could have a guy like a March or so that come and just, you have to give it to him for the way he's played, regardless of name status. I'm going to go Matthew Tkachuk. I think if Florida gets there and goes all the way, he's going to have a big reason to do with it. He's a household name as far as hockey players go, especially on the Panthers. And if he gets there, he's going to command a lot of attention. And I think he would probably be my bet right now if the Panthers come out of the East. Only reason I wouldn't say Shesterkin for the Rangers is because I think if the Rangers do win it all, it's going to be a lot of either Mika, Panarin, Kreider. Those are all guys. Trocheck is having, there are so many skaters on the Rangers that you could easily make an argument for right now. Not to say Shesterkin doesn't deserve it, but for me, I tend to look for those teams that really only have a couple of guys that are really going to get consideration and try and focus in on one of those. So all good answers there for the Conn Smythe. We'll definitely track that as the playoffs go along because that's fun to take care of and talk about.
And we'll know a little bit more later on too. Like I think the next round we'll get a more clear picture because, like, let's say for example, Vancouver and Dallas win. Does that kind of knock out McKinnon and McDavid at that point?
Oh, of course. I mean, you can have a Jean-Sebastien Giguère situation where the losing team in the Stanley Cup Finals gets the Conn Smythe winner comes from that team. I don't know if you could ever have it from a team that doesn't get to the Stanley Cup. They would have to have an unbelievable 3 rounds for that to be considered. So I don't know if that would ever happen, but it could go to a losing team. You never know.